All right, good afternoon. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everybody and remind you to turn down your cell phones like I just remembered to do myself, and welcome everybody this evening. At this time, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Lee County Board of Commissioners to order. Thank you very much. And we'd like to call on Commissioner Tim Sloan for the invocation and the pledge.
At this time, let us observe a moment of silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. And remember, board members and those that keep track of our agenda online, we'll go back to 2 meetings a month next month, so this should be.
One more.
Oh, that's right, that's right. Okay, I'm so sorry. See, I'm hoping against hope. That's right, one more. Okay, well, then my apologies for next month too. But anyway, we'll power through here. Any additional agenda items? I kind of hesitate to ask that question. Okay, is there a motion?
Accept the agenda as stated.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. The approval of consent agenda.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. All right. Now we'll begin our public hearings, and that will be on page, thank you, Ms. Davidson, for your hard work. That'll be on page 225 of your agenda, and let's see, I can get to it. My apologies. And we'd like to call on Ms. Neal. Welcome. Good afternoon. If you want to give us a little reminder and
Okay. Good evening, County Commissioners, Planning Board members, and staff. This evening, we have a joint public hearing with the Lee County Planning Board. There's a rezoning application by Charles David McEvers and Rebecca McEvers to rezone one 3.76 acre tract of land with 4 structures on it, and therefore 4 addresses, from residential restricted to highway commercial. All right. Once again, the Planning Board has received a rezoning request from David and Rebecca McEvers to rezone from residential restricted to highway commercial one 3.76 acre tract of land with frontage on Greenwood Road with the intent to either market or redevelop the site in a commercial manner. The subject property is one tract of land that is developed with 4 structures that are described as follows. 1365 Greenwood Road appears to be an old wooden store. 1387 Greenwood Road appears to be a metal outbuilding. 1411 is a small wooden house utilized as a residential rental. 1427 is a larger craftsman-style house also utilized as a residential rental. The property is located within the Lemon Springs community and appears to have access to public water and is served by private septic systems. To the west is the historic Cross Wilson Farm residence built around 1875, and it's now a 6-acre tract of land with a house, a small pond, and outbuildings at 1473 Greenwood Road. And you can see this a little better on the aerial imagery. To the south is a house addressed as 1351 Greenwood Road, with a large outbuilding that is accessed via an easement along an existing dirt road that runs along the eastern property line, paralleling the railroad. To the north, on the opposite side of Greenwood Road, is a mobile home park, also owned by the applicants. It's accessed via Keystone Lane and Denson Lane, and appears to be occupied by 16 mobile homes. To the east, opposite the railroad, is the Lemon Springs mini-storage facility, with a large gravel parking area. Also to the northeast, opposite Greenwood Road and Joe Matthews Road, is what appears to be an old wooden store building that is in disrepair. The current zoning of residential restricted is established to provide areas for low-density, single-family uses, with a maximum of 1.5 dwelling units per acre. Property within this zoning district should include only those tracts which abut or in close proximity to existing large-lot single-family development, making this an appropriate transition district between rural, agricultural, and suburban uses. The dimensional requirements include a minimum lot width of 100 feet, a minimum lot depth of 125 feet, a minimum lot size of 30,000 square feet, with principal building setbacks of 30 from the front, 30 from the rear, and 15 from the left and right side. There's a maximum building height in residential restricted of 40 feet. Examples of uses permitted in the residential restricted zoning district include single-family detached homes, either site-built or modular, churches, animal and crop production, forestry, bed and breakfast inns, stables and riding academies, in-home daycares for children and adults. There's a complete list of permitted uses for this zoning district included within the agenda for your reference. The proposed zoning of highway commercial is intended to accommodate uses that depend upon a large flow of traffic and convenient access, such as retailing of durable goods, the provision of commercial services to industrial areas, and the provision of services to tourists. The dimensional requirements of highway commercial include a minimum lot width of 50 feet, a minimum lot depth of 100 feet, which creates a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet, with principal building setbacks of 10 feet from the front property line, and the required landscape buffer yard width, determining the rear and side yard setbacks as measured from the property lines. The typical required landscape buffer width for highway commercial use being developed next to a residential restricted use is 20 feet, and that's measured from the exterior property lines inward towards the commercially developed site. There is no maximum building height in highway commercial, and the maximum allowed impervious surface, such as rooftop, parking lot, etc., is 80% of the site. Examples of uses permitted by right within the highway commercial zoning district include churches, schools, daycares for children and adults, animal and crop production, forestry, agricultural equipment sales and service, farm, landscape, and garden supply sales, flea markets, antique shops, gun shops and gunsmiths, general merchandise auction sales, convenience stores both with and without gas sales, car washes, barber shops and salons, restaurants with or without drive-through facilities, motor vehicle sales, service and towing, offices for professional services such as attorneys or realtors, commercial indoor recreation activities, and warehouses. Once again, there's a complete list of permitted uses for this zoning district included within the agenda for your reference. This site is located within the 2005 Greenwood Small Area Plan Study Area, which is intended as a guide for future growth and development within this area. The plan denoted a small concentration of commercial development in the Lemon Springs area and recommended retail commercial mixed use for this specific area. Please be mindful that at this time there is no public sanitary sewer in the area to support high density and/or compact uses, and there are no architectural design standards for buildings along Greenwood Road. Excuse me. The 2020 land use plan does not identify a specific land use for the subject property. Therefore, when considering the zoning of this property, current development trends and the surrounding zoning of the neighborhood should be considered. I will pause at this point to allow you to open the public hearing and make myself available for questions.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for her before we do the hearing? Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the hearing for the rezoning request for the application by Charles David McEvers and Rebecca McEvers. Do we need 4, or can we do it together? Okay, just making sure. Hey, how are you? Okay, so we'll open the hearing. Okay. Okay, and this is for all 4 tracks. 1365, 1387, 1411, and 1427.
Excuse me, may I interject?
Sure.
It's only one tract of land that happens to be developed with 4 structures. So
Oh,
it has 4 addresses.
okay.
It's
So we can,
1.76 acre
okay.
tract of land, one pin number.
okay, thank you. That makes it so much easier. Thank you, Ms. McNeil. Okay, speaking in favor of.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We've reached a point where we're limited on the uses for this property, and we feel the highest and best use would be for it to be zoned commercially, which would open up the possibilities for some small businesses needed in the area. This area was previously used for business since it was built in 1915, and it was called the Thomas Store and was used as a general store, and the larger building was a feed mill. The Fast Stop was built in the 70s by the Deal and the Laws family, and the old store and the old mill closed. The store was used as an upholstery shop for several years after we purchased the property and until the tenants retired. The old store still has all the old features, which are recorded in the Lee County History and Architecture of Lee County, North Carolina book written by Daniel Pizzoni. This property was zoned residential. I'm not sure when or why, but it has its limited uses. We don't feel we can utilize the property for residential uses because of the proximity of the railroad track. We've also been approached by people who would like more retail or small business in our area. We do not have any specific plans at this time, but we are asking for the rezoning to be able to have the possibility of something that will benefit the area in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the rezoning request? Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition of the rezoning request? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much. All right, so now we'll move into the second public hearing for tonight, and that's consider the adoption of the proposed animal services ordinance. Mr. Heath Kane, good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Feel like I was up here in 2011.
Yes.
Um,
I'm so sorry. Page 247.
This evening, the Board of Health is wanting to present the County Commissioners with this, the public hearing to approve the proposed ordinance changes. I do want to read over the summary just to give everybody a history of kind of what we've done for the last year, actually. The The Board of Health voted to form an Animal Services Subcommittee in the summer of 2016 to review and update the Lee County Animal Services Ordinance. Members of the subcommittee included Dr. Diane Schaller, Dickie Sloop, Dr. Teresa Waddell, Dr. Andre Connect, Sergeant Ken Gilstrap, Whitney Parish, Anthony Williams, and Juan Diaz-Franco. The goal of the subcommittee was to explicate clearly the duties of the Lee County Sheriff's Office and the Lee County Animal Shelter, further protect the public's health by providing the animal with the rabies vaccination for a fee, enforce microchipping, and strengthen the enforcement section. The fees and fines in Lee County Animal Services permit were added as appendices so they could be modified in the future without modifying the ordinance. Within the proposed ordinance, there was no requirement for animals to be tethered. If an owner chooses to tether an animal, it must be done as per the proposed ordinance. The enforcement section clearly defines the charges the Lee County Sheriff's Office may take with respect to civil penalties and criminal citations. There was a community meeting held excuse me, May 23rd, 2017 at the Ernest and Ruby McSwain Extension Education Agricultural Center from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. to explain the proposed revisions to the Lee County Animal Services Ordinance. Community meeting was advertised in the Sanford Herald in English and Spanish. It was also placed on the Lee County homepage and on the Animal Services homepage. In the advertisement in the Herald and on the website, the hyperlinks were included in the advertisement to inform the community where to review the proposed ordinance, along with the modifications which were made online. Paper copies of the proposed ordinance, along with the specific modifications being made, are also available at the animal shelter and at the health department. In the advertisement, the health director's email was included so that if anyone wanted to email me their concerns and was unable to attend, I could provide the information to the subcommittee. I received 5 emails from the community, and all emails specifically had concerns about animals and hot vehicles. On the night of the meeting, 5 members of the community were present, and Sergeant Ken Gilstrap and Anthony Williams provided a PowerPoint presentation concerning the proposed ordinance. Questions were asked at the end of the presentation by the group, and none were specifically related to the ordinance. The questions were asked concerning animals and hot vehicles, and was that not against the law? At the end of the evening, the group agreed with the modifications being made and felt they were needed in Lee County. The Lee County Board of Health held a public hearing on the proposed ordinance July 19, 2017. The advertisement was placed in Sanford Herald and on the Lee County government website so the information would be available, including the proposed ordinance and modifications made by the subcommittee. Paper copies of the proposed ordinance, along with the specific modifications being made, were also available at the animal shelter, the health department, and the library. On the night of public hearing and Board of Health meeting, no one spoke for or against the proposed ordinance. After the public hearing, the Animal Services Committee presented the proposed Animal Services Ordinance to the Board of Health as an action item. The Board approved the proposed Board of Health Ordinance as it was written. I will pause to open up the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, first try.
No, I completely understand.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions for him before I open the hearing?
I have one, without a lot of detail. What are some of the more important changes you're looking at there? I was looking at one of your meetings, you said you had 5 members of the community.
Excuse me.
5 members are not a lot of people from the community.
The specific changes were set aside on this document. They were here.
I get a copy of that.
Yes, sir.
It's
It's in-
page
it's in the packet.
269. It's 269.
69 in the book. Okay. I'll be honest with you, I haven't had time to read that.
I think, and Sergeant Gilstrap is here this evening as well, and I think the major concerns from the subcommittee to the Board of Health was the fact there were some gray areas about who had enforcement shelter versus the sheriff's office, and also some of the dynamics when it come to the enforcement piece based off the section 4195, which had a bunch of, let's just say, words in it, but it did not have any enforcement actions, with one of those sections specifically saying that a warning could be given by the sheriff's office no matter if it was civil or criminal, and it had some gray area in it, and we didn't want to be held accountable to something we couldn't enforce. So the enforcement piece was a big one. The tethering, section 461, has got a lot more clarity in it, and also it's protecting the animal now a lot more than the previous ordinance did. I think it specifically it has more specifics in it as far as what we could find as an enforcement issue if the sheriff's office went out there. So I think that was a clarification made as well. I do like the fact, or I appreciate the fact, in the animal services, proposed animal services ordinance, we are asking to charge a fee for rabies vaccine, $10 fee, which is in the ordinance. But we have been providing this service for animals being adopted for over 4 years now without a fee. So we need to recoup those funds if possible for the service. There is a more specific structure in place for microchipping. There's much more specific as far as spay-neuter. I think there's some really good points that I think the Sheriff's Office would back up as far as the enforcement piece, giving individuals who want to adopt an animal a certain amount of days to come and provide that paperwork back, or there'll be an enforcement piece on the back end, which was lacking in the previous document as well. So I think that's some of the main highlights.
So you have in here about dangerous animal signage to be approved by Animal Services.
Yes, sir.
Would somebody have to, could they send you their sign electronically, or?
That was something that was discussed. Yes, sir, that would be a possibility. The previous ordinance in that section actually said that sign would be purchased from the animal shelter, and we did not invest any signage back then to be able to provide that service.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you for the water.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, we'll do the public hearing, and then that might, stay close.
I will.
That might prompt some more questions. Okay, at this time, I'll open the public hearing to consider adoption of the proposed animal services ordinance. Anyone that would like to speak in favor of the adoption of this ordinance? Come on. Good evening.
Sergeant Gil Sharp, Lee County Sheriff's Office. I would like to speak in favor of it, and I did participate in the subcommittee to come up with this, but I feel that adding these changes, like Chief has said, clarifies some of the enforcement pieces. It solves some of the issues and complaints that we received from the public, especially when it came to tethering. Like, completely clarified that. And I will say the majority of that was adopted from several other counties. A lot of time was spent researching surrounding counties that have had the ordinances for a while, speaking to them, see what works and what didn't. So I think this was a good meld of fixing minor problems that we have with ours, updating it and making it more friendly for the community also. The enforcement area we discussed had a flaw in it that when it came to prosecuting or pursuing civil fines that weren't paid, now gives the county an easier avenue to be able to go after those funds.
Learning as we go. Thank you for helping on the committee too. Anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the ordinance? Okay, anyone wishing to speak against the proposed ordinance? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kane, as well. Before we move into public comments, I would like to recognize a new member of our county family, Miss Beth List. Sorry to put you on the spot. If you can stand up just so everybody can see you. She is our new library director, and we're very, very, very pleased to have her.
Thank you.
And welcome.
Thank you very much.
And you can, what town from New York?
Rochester, well, outside of Rochester.
Yeah, right, right. So she has chosen Lee County for her home, and she tells a great story. So I encourage everybody to go by the library and meet her and hear how she came to kind of like our little corner of the world. So we're glad you're here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, now we'll go into public comments. I just wanted to make sure we recognized her and everybody got to meet her. Thanks, ma'am. Mr. Mark Coggins. Hey there. Good evening.
Thank
Thank you for letting me speak to you. Mark Coggins, 3909 Hunt Springs Drive. I brought two photos to you to look at, and they're primarily responsibility of the city council. I've spoken to the city council about them, but nothing has been done. Since I talked to them, I've seen a family or two going into what I call the Jonesboro Hotel. Okay? It's a dilapidated building, the yellow building that is downtown Jonesboro. We've spent millions of dollars upgrading the downtown Sanford and Jonesboro, but yet this building remains there. I've talked to the chief of the fire department about the situation. Maybe there's no fire extinguishers or any safety devices in the building. I'm concerned that we will have something like an Oakland where somebody will die from the building catching a fire. But I just wanted to talk to you about maybe if we could put some pressure on the city council to do something in upgrading. The other one that I gave you is what I call the Courthouse Barn. Okay? And I hate that the audience, everybody else can't see it, but it used to be the Mcleod storage building, but it has several openings in there where teenagers or anybody else could go in there and maybe get hurt. But I've also brought this to the attention of the city council, and I'm going to bring it to their attention again at the next meeting. But I thank you so much for letting me speak to you about this, because I am concerned that somebody may lose their life in primarily the first item. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coggins. Appreciate that.
Is this yellow house the one
It's a two-story building.
that sits on Main Street?
Yes, it's on.
Right across
Going-
from the barbershop.
The first one is on Main Street in Jonesboro. The other one is on Elm Street behind the courthouse. And I'm sure that thousands of people see these two buildings. Like I said, we spent millions of dollars upgrading downtown Sanford and Jonesboro. And it's a shame that we have two buildings that look like this still in the city of Sanford. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. All right, we'll move into old business. The first item is the Lee County recommendations from the planning board regarding rezoning request, Rex Mcleod Drive. Oh, okay, I didn't look up. I'm glad I looked up first. We'll let Mr. Downey take over. This is page 272.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, members of the board. As the Madam Chair indicated, this is a recommendation from the Planning Board. This is a recommendation on a request to rezone several properties out in the existing industrial park. For reference, if you look on page 279 of your packet, there's a map that probably picture's worth 1,000 words, makes it a little easier for you. But basically, you may recall at the public hearing, this was 4 different businesses in the industrial park with multiple properties. They discovered that their current zoning probably didn't match exactly what they do, and potentially future expansion to some of those. In talking with myself personally, based on those discussions, I recommended that they consider maybe going to heavy industrial, the HI, and they made that request, and essentially that was presented to you at public hearing, and then it went to the planning board, and the planning board agreed and recommended that you do consider making that zoning change. And I'll pause there, Madam Chair, if there's questions.
Okay, any questions?
Move to accept the recommendation.
Okay. Motion, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, sir. Okay, and then we'll just keep rolling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The next item on for your consideration is also a recommendation from the planning board, but this is for a text amendment, not a zoning map change. And this actually only affects the city of Sanford currently and the town of Broadway. You may recall we did a presentation to you about a beekeeping ordinance change in the downtown or central business district areas. We basically updated our ordinance to reflect current industry trends as it relates to beekeeping as somewhat of a hobby and an interest in. And one of the things we found, we had a gentleman in downtown Sanford had asked for essentially the ability to place hives in downtown. And there seemed to be a lot of good best management practices in doing that, but they weren't really in our ordinance. So we simply adopted that, brought that forward. It was already adopted by the city of Sanford, has already been in front of, to the town of Broadway, I believe, and we're asking you just to consider it, even though it doesn't affect the county, just to keep our ordinances consistent. And I'll pause there for questions.
Okay.
I just got one. Where are those needs?
What's that?
Where are they?
They are typically in downtown areas rooftop mounted, so a lot of times you won't see them, if that's what you're asking, like where the hives are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if they're on the ground, there's some standards we have, like there's some walls that they have to put up so that they wouldn't fly right at ground level. They have to go up and over. Very interesting. I found out a lot about that whole industry. They have to have water sources. If you remember from the standards, they have to have a water source close by so they're not going into like a neighboring property to get water and stuff like that. So it's very interesting.
You have any kind of identifying marker where they're located?
No, sir. We didn't require that.
The reason why you didn't, you have people who are allergic to include contractors and other skilled individuals in construction.
Honestly, we didn't think of it, to be quite honest with you. One of the things we did find in doing the research and talking with a lot of the beekeeping community, there's usually not a problem. There's not a problem usually. If you follow the practices, like I said, where you force them up and out and like that, you're not.
I'm trying to tell somebody that who has the.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Enough of that.
I move to accept the motion as presented. The text amendment.
Okay. Any more discussion or questions?
I'd like for you to consider marking those locations so that.
I'm certain the ones that we don't have that many, so we can talk to them. We'll be glad
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
People going on rooftops.
Yeah. Especially kids.
Sure.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Ms. McNeil's back,
Okay.
so I didn't.
I can do this one real quick.
Okay,
I'll be
all right.
honest with you.
I didn't know if you knew she
Yeah,
was
I appreciate
here,
that.
so-
Looking out for our best interest.
Yes,
Um,
I know you're.
Yes,
you
we're kind of
got-
double booked tonight.
Yes.
But this item, and the reason I wanted to speak to this because I was the person who kind of introduced this. You may recall we had introduced another text amendment for consideration. This was going to change the membership of the Planning Board and the Board of Adjustment. We're going to split the membership. This was a staff-driven amendment. You may recall there was opposition stated at the public hearing that night. We also went back and talked to the board. The current membership, through a combination of maybe just the current membership and maybe some time since we went through the long hearings, they were not in favor of making that change, and they felt comfortable keeping it one board. So based on that, we simply they recommend denying that amendment, and that's what you have from them. And what we will do is we as staff will just continue to work with them, and if there's a need based on their direction, we can bring that back to you. And I'll pause there first.
So I'm just having a question for council. From a legal standpoint, with the planning board making the policy and making a decision, in a situation like the rock quarry, and it comes down to where it has to go before a board of adjustment, and you have a quasi judicial hearing, how is that acceptable from a legal standpoint for the same people that originally made the decision to be the ones judging if it goes forward with attorneys involved?
What do you mean to make the original decision?
Well, I mean, or make the recommendation not to approve or approve.
Well, it goes straight to the Board of Adjustment. So
Right.
it wouldn't go to the planning board, so they put on like Board of Adjustment hat and have it through the quasi-judicial.
All right, so you have certain,
Oh, no,
sorry.
go ahead.
You have certain things in the UDO that are identified already as being only allowed with a special use permit. Now, that doesn't mean they have to go in front of you all and get the property zone. The zoning is already set, but they have to get the extra approval through the Board of Adjustment. When they make that application, and you all never see it, it doesn't go through the
Right.
legislative process, it goes through the quasi-judicial process. And of course, any decision that's made by that board is appealed to court,
Right.
not to you all.
It's just like they wear two different.
They do. They do.
It's like once they qualify for
And they
that
actually open
special
their
use
meetings that way,
permit,
they'll-
they veer off into Board of Adjustments, not going through the planning
So
board.
like when they used to meet on the same night, we would open the meeting as a planning board. They
Right.
would do all their action there. They'd close it, officially close it, and then they'd have to open it as BOA. Now we actually have them on different nights, so it's a little easier for them.
Right, yeah, you talked about that earlier.
So how long have we been operating that way?
As combined, since we adopted the UDO in 2005, 2006. If you recall, the main reason for that was at that time when we were doing that, we only had 2 Board of Adjustment cases in like a 5-year period. So it was much more convenient to kind of keep everybody fresh.
I I move that we accept the recommendation to deny and keep it as it is.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to accept the denial of separating the two boards? Is that correct? Okay. Say aye.
And it is.
Yes, yes. Okay, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on to page 290. Consideration of proposal from environmental consultant Charles, is it Yule? Okay.
Dr. Ewing?
Dr. Yule, for hydraulic fracturing potential impacts assessment for Lee County. Mr. Crumpton.
Yes, ma'am. We, working with Chatham County, we let them go first and let them do the most of the legwork on this process. But now that they've completed and we've talked with Dr. Ewell, we need to go forward and do our impact assessment as required by the ordinance that the board approved almost 2 years ago. The moratorium ordinance that was approved expires coming up in December. Based on Dr. Ewell's outline, it's going to be pushing it, so we'll probably have to have a public hearing in the next 30, 60 days to extend the moratorium. In addition, we need time to work with Chatham on changes to the UDO. They're working with an attorney who specializes in this, and I'm working with County Manager Pascal to figure out what that cost would be for us to participate as well. So I think the $21,000 fee for this is pretty reasonable given what Dr. Ewell has to do, and that fee's probably reduced as well because of all the legwork that Don Kavaskis has done. So we have a lot more information to give him that he will not have to go research himself. So recommending approval.
Okay, any questions? And just on page 293, John, you know, so he's, if we vote on this tonight, he'll do 2 months.
Correct.
And that 2 months will get us through the draft report and the community meetings. And then in the third month, we take all of that for a final report. And if necessary, a third meeting. Did I read that right? That we may
That's
need to have a
correct.
third one? Okay, all right. Okay, sure.
There's a maximum amount of time to extend a moratorium. Am I correct about that?
You have to ask Ms. Parish, but I believe we read that the maximum time that the moratorium can run at all is 5 years.
Yeah, I think we would be fine extending it, 6 months, a year in this case. I believe.
It was 2 years.
That's what
It was 2 years.
and we've done
Yeah,
two.
I recall.
We feel pretty confident that we can, 6 to 12 more months would be appropriate.
Any more questions? Okay, sir.
What is Chatham doing? How many months? Or do you know?
I want to say they're 12,
Wow.
maybe 2. I don't know. Somewhere they might have.
Two.
I think top 2.
She said it's 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
You said this study's gonna
They
cost
do.
us what?
$21,000.
It cost Chatham's was 75,000, so. and- Yeah, and
75.
and again, like he said, Mr. Kavaskis with GIS has saved us a lot of money.
And we let them go first on purpose.
Yeah, well. How much money? Okay, is there a motion?
Move to accept.
Okay, any more discussion? Have a motion to accept?
Are we accepting on, 6 months or 12 months?
Well, we'll
We're
have to
not
come back
voting
to the
on it.
public hearing to extend the moratorium.
Yeah, this is just accepting,
Dr. Yule's contract.
the study.
Let me hear what you're thinking anyway. 6 months or 12 months?
I'm not the chairman.
Oh, no, this is
We
all of our
We were
discussion.
thinking based on the time that, in talking with Chatham County, the time to try to come up with recommendations for the UDO, that we would need at least 12 months.
All right.
Because we've got, what we're looking at, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on down the line, but with the with the land use, that's been pushed back a little bit. So it looks like that may be December. And then depending on other things, yeah, we'll just,
So if we approve the funding tonight, we'll be looking at this being done by this time
December.
next year sometime.
no, this would only
The
take 3 months.
report you should have by, the final report should be done by the end of December.
Yeah. But then that would help us with our UDO and things moving forward. Mhm. Yes, correct. So that's what Mr.
Wanna
Crumpton
put the
was
extension
saying.
in.
We'd have to talk in September about putting a public hearing to do the extension.
You'd rather get the maximum, you make the request.
Then have to
and
keep
back
going,
on it.
then have to keep going back. Mhm.
You have.
Okay, we've got a motion,
to
we have a motion on the floor to accept the recommendation for the hydraulic fracturing potential impacts assessment at the cost of $21,000 that would be completed by December. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. I know sometimes the wheels turn slowly, but okay, page 302, consideration of an upset bid offer to purchase surplus property located at 109 South 3rd Street. Ms. Parish?
Yes, if you recall, this property has been on the agenda for quite some time. The city and the county owns the property. There were originally 2 offers submitted, one by Lawrence Curtis on behalf of Wits Remodeling for $10,545.65, and another one offered by Christian Campos. At that time, the board accepted the offer of Mr. Curtis, and it was advertised in the Sanford Herald on June 14th. Mr. Campos then submitted the first upset bid of $12,100. The board considered that upset bid at the July 17th meeting, and that was run in the Sanford Herald on August 2nd of 2017. Mr. Curtis has now submitted a second upset bid of $13,000, and as such has paid the deposit and the advertising costs as well. So at this time you can accept the offer and authorize the advertisement to be run in the Sanford Herald.
Move to accept the offer, re-advertise. Hey, I've got a bid board.
It
Is there a
does.
minimum bid?
It does.
Yes, it has to be 10% of the first $1,000 and 5% of the remainder.
Okay, so we've got a motion. Any more discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. All right, and then on page 308,
Yes.
an update on the upset bid for 913 Oddfellow Street.
Yes, at the July 17th, 2017 meeting, the board agreed to accept the offer from Mr. Retta Kelly to purchase 913 Oddfellow Street for $500 and to advertise it through the upset bid process. The amount of fees and taxes owed on the property is $10,877.93, and the taxable value is $2,500. The city did deed its portion of its property over, so that way the county could just go ahead and do the closing on the property, dispose of the property, and then remit any costs back to the city. The offer from Ms. Kelly was advertised in the Sanford Herald on August 2nd of 2017, and no upset bids were received. So at this time, you can accept the offer and authorize the chair and staff to execute the necessary documents to transfer the property to the scope.
Okay.
So moved.
All right. And there's a motion. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, very good. Thank you very much. All right, moving into new business. And that's me. I've received a letter from Miss Victoria Witt, who's our Chief Executive Officer from the Sand Hill Center. And as you see in your packet, Commissioner Dodson has served with distinction, filling out Commissioner Smith's term, but that has come to an end. So with his permission, I would like to ask the board to reappoint Commissioner Dodson to continue serving on the Sand Hills Center Board, and it will be a 3-year term.
So moved.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, you're welcome. Thank you for serving. That's really, really critical, what that board's doing right now, Kevin. We'll just continue to hear that.
A lot of that, what we talked about, is very relevant to the law enforcement, kind of more, crisis intervention training, so absolutely, I'm more happy to serve.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, page 325, a request for approval of the addendum for additional services in regards to commercial and industrial properties for the 2019 reappraisal. Michelle? Hey, good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Hope you're having a good evening. Tonight you have before you a request to approve an addendum to a previously approved agreement with Tyler Technologies. The addendum is for commercial and industrial appraisal services for our upcoming reappraisal, which will be effective January 1, 2019. These services will include field review, data verification, data entry, neighborhood delineation, land analysis and valuation, development and entry of cost and income tables, valuation and defense during the appeal process. I have with me tonight Lisa Faulkner, our appraisal manager, Michael Brown, our reappraisal coordinator, and Steve Kreisel with Tyler Technologies, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about the addendum. But basically it is just to is the appraisal portion for commercial and industrial properties for the county.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, I had a couple.
Yes, ma'am.
One was, and I guess I'm kind of on 339, and I know there was another reference to it too. But when you have properties that are gated, and you can't see back in there, do you just call, whether it's a farmer or another person that just may have property off the road? Do you just call them and set up an appointment?
If
to
it's
go
a
see it?
property we need to see, yes, we will try
Okay.
to make contact with the taxpayer. to
Okay,
see.
that was one of the questions. And then, do they have their own staff that comes around and does this, or is this?
For the commercial and industrial appraisal, it will be their staff.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I think that was it for me. It's amazing how much all of this has changed since the first time I read about how we were doing a tax appraisal, and now we've got all this
We have
high-tech
a lot
stuff
of
going
wonderful
on.
technology.
It makes
You
it
saw some of
better.
it tonight when the aerial photography,
Yeah.
and photometry.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Okay,
I was just gonna ask you, on this commercial industrial property, can you kind of tell me, how do they go about the appraisal? I don't want you to go into detail, but just tell me, if I got a business, how do they come in and appraise my property? Roughly.
I'll let Michael speak to that, the specifics.
All right, well, sir. In reference to commercial industrial properties, the courts have looked at income-producing properties, and basically the income approach is the most applicable method to use. We will be using sales approach and cost approach also to value these properties. But for income-producing properties, we'll try to use the income approaches as much as appropriate. Now, the type of property you're speaking of can,
I was just thinking, if I owned a piece of property, a commercial property, or in that industry, and I upgraded, and you came in,
okay?
what would be your procedure?
If it's a piece of property that's owner occupied and such as that,
Right.
we're probably using sales and cost approach. If it is a piece of property that is income producing, that is actually leased out or rented out or such as that, we'll try to obtain income and expense information from those property owners to try to help us and to arrive at a value for those properties.
okay. Any other questions for Michelle? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, is there a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
We appreciate your support.
It's hard to believe it's already around again. Goodness. Okay. The request to approve funding for voicemail and automated attendant upgrade, Mr. Edwards. Welcome back and congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. We are learning how to operate on limited sleep with a 7-week-old at home, but it's good.
You're man to man now.
That's right, that's right. Good evening. What you have before you tonight is a request to approve funding in this year's fiscal budget to upgrade our voicemail and automated attendance system. The current one's been in place since 2006, and it's finally reached its end of life, and so we just need to move forward with upgrading that system. We're glad to answer any questions.
You have this in your budget?
Yes, sir.
Move to approve.
Okay. Any more questions? Just sounded so sad. It reached its end.
I know. We have to.
We are sad. It's done so well.
It has.
It really has, yes. I mean, do you foresee it being much of a change?
From the end user perspective, customer perspective, no
Okay.
no changes.
Headache for you, but
Right.
I gotcha. I understand. Sorry, but okay. Okay. All righty. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you very
All right.
much, Kyle.
Thank you
Good
all.
to have you back.
Thanks. Good to be back.
All right, page 353, request for an amendment to the interlocal agreement for tax collection for the occupancy tax. Ms. Parish.
So back in 2013, the city of Sanford and Lee County entered into an interlocal agreement for the county's appointed tax collector to collect current and delinquent municipal ad valorem taxes and other taxes as well. In August of 2017, the city of Sanford gained authorization to levy the room occupancy tax through Session Law 2017-202. And the Sanford Tourism Development Authority was created. As such, the county has agreed to collect the occupancy tax for the city at no additional charge. The city will remit all taxes to the Sanford Tourism Development Authority, and there'll be no administrative fees kept by either the city of Sanford or the county. So we have an amendment to the interlocal agreement, which just spells out the services that would be provided and is asked that you approve.
Move to approve First Amendment to the local agreement for tax collection.
Okay. Any discussion?
Y'all have any comments?
Lisa?
Pardon?
I'm sorry, I was talking to the tax administrator. Yes, sir.
Y'all have any comments regarding this?
Any
agreement?
comments?
Pay's cheap.
We'll figure it out.
We're already collecting the fee on the 3% that goes to the Civic Center. So we just, we're not keeping a administrative fee out of that. All that money gets turned over to the Civic Center. So
Just kind of.
we told the city that we would continue to do that for free as long as they turned all the money over to the Tourism Development Authority, and they didn't keep the fee.
Talking about how cheap the pay was.
Well, now I have a better understanding why they're doing this.
Yeah.
That's all
It's a
that.
good plan.
Thank you.
And is that done quarterly as well?
No, they pay the room occupancy tax monthly.
Monthly? Okay. Thank you. Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that was a long time coming. All right, page 369. Consideration of modification to the lease agreement with Progressive Development Company LLC for space at the Buggy Factory. Ms. Parish?
So on September 10th of 2014, Lee County, the city of Sanford, signed a lease agreement for space at the Buggy Factory. That was to put all aspects of development for Sanford and Lee County by co-locating the different departments that are currently there. The city and county now need more space for environmental health and building inspections, and as such, a proposed modification to the original lease has been prepared. Under the original lease, the county paid Progressive Development $7,308 a month for its space, and under the new amendment, the county will pay $8,113.62 a month for the space. So this time we're just asking the commissioners approve the request and authorize the chair to sign the modification to the lease agreement.
And we did budget the higher amount in the budget.
Right.
Now, how much space are we getting for this $8,000? How many offices?
The space is, and when you go in the bottom floor, you know, the space where that conference room, meeting room is, we're basically taking all of that over.
And we're gonna have to furnish it?
Yes, sir.
Is that in here?
No, sir, that's in the budget though, and so is the outfit to the building. We have that in the budget as well. We covered it all.
Yeah, it sounded like it did, but why didn't you put the numbers in there?
But
We haven't gotten to that part yet.
But we're growing, so that's a good thing. We need more inspectors.
You're growing in both directions.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
That's not always good.
Fair point. Okay. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, all right, okay.
Like a staff slick one to me.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right. I tell you, I continue to get so much positive feedback about the Buggy Factory from everybody that needs to go in there for something. It's just, they're so appreciative of the one-stop shop deal. Okay, page 404. Consideration of offer to purchase property located on 1909 Carr Creek Drive, Sanford. Ms. Parish?
Yes, so in 2014, the county and the city of Sanford acquired 1909 Carr Creek Drive. That PIN number is 96617811100 through a foreclosure sale. The total redeem amount of taxes and fees and assessments owed on the property is $25,619.28. The taxable value of the property is $10,000. In April of this past year, letters were sent to adjoining property owners inquiring if anyone was interested in placing an offer on the properties. Lily, his name's Tony, but Lily and Ricardo Bradley made an offer of $500. They paid the requisite deposit and the advertising costs. In order to proceed with the sale, the board will need to consider declaring the property as surplus, accept the $500, and then allow the offer to be advertised in the Sanford Herald. And I also included on here is that I like to put when we do this, if you authorize the offer to be advertised, and then place a for sale sign by county government or something on the property, and also send letters to adjoining property owners again, just seeing if we could get any more anyone else interested in the properties.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. All right, page 414. Whitney, would you? I'm not. Parish show tonight. Consider adopting an ordinance to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages before noon on Sundays.
So So on June 29th of this year, the North Carolina General Assembly enacted Senate Bill 155, and the governor signed it into law on June 30th of 2017. Section 4 of the bill states that in accordance with General Statute 18B-1004C, a county may adopt an ordinance allowing for the sale of malt beverages and fortified wine, and mixed beverages beginning at 10 a.m. on Sunday pursuant to the licensed premises permits issued under General Statute 18B-1001. The staff have been contacted by a business who would be eligible to sell such beverages on Sundays in the county if the county were to pass the ordinance. So at this point, we just want to bring it to the board's attention, and if you are interested, we could hold a public hearing in September, but we would need to hold a public hearing on the ordinance to move forward.
Any questions for clarification on that? This isn't a vote on the actual sale of alcoholic beverages before noon. It's just whether we want to move forward and conduct a public hearing in September to get the public's input. Okay?
This is for the public hearing.
Yes, sir.
Move forward for the public hearing.
Okay. There's a motion to conduct a public hearing on this issue in September. All those in favor, or any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll get that on the agenda. Okay, Ms. Gamble. I guess you just kind of, rather than call on every single one, you're just going to kind of do these all together, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Items H through M on the agenda are board appointment applications that have been submitted for your consideration, 5 of which have been submitted since the last Board of Commissioner meeting, and they've been previously sent to you through electronic means. We have consolidated these appointments into ballot form for voting purposes, and the results are as follows. For the Agricultural Advisory Board, there are 4 vacancies. Mary L. Whitaker, also known as Molly Whitaker, submitted an application for reappointment, and she did gain that reappointment. That's for West Sanford. The Americans with Disabilities Act Committee had 1 vacancy with an application submitted by Charles Hanna, and that was accepted. The Joint Environmental Affairs Board has 4 vacancies. 1 application was submitted by Gabby Murillo, and that was accepted. And the Sanford Planning Board has 2 vacancies. 3 applications were submitted, and this is the board that requires the residency within the 1 mile ETJ. All 3 people that have submitted applications met that requirement, and the 2 people selected to fill those vacancies are Robert Smith and Ed Ashburn. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
That was nice and smooth.
That's a great job. Thank you very much. Okay, page 439. Request from the City of Sanford for a conveyance of property located on Wicker Street. Mr. Crumpton.
Yes, ma'am. This is a request from the city to begin a project that they're calling the Medical Mile that would take the current greenway that runs through Kiwanis Family Park and basically run it down to where the Y is and then back up Wicker. We own a tract of land. It's really swamp land. I don't know how they came up with $32,000 value, but in keeping with other properties and other projects like this, I told the city manager I felt confident that the board would vote that they keep the money and use it to improve the greenway and help our quality of life. But we're recommending that we transfer the entire parcel to the city. It basically runs their sewer line runs through the property as it is. So with them getting the greenway and they have the sewer line running through there. They basically take up all the property anyway. So wouldn't be a whole lot we could do with it, and it would be easier for the attorneys just to transfer the whole property and not have to drop an easement. So we're recommending that we do that at a cost to the city of $0.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move that we accept the county manager's proposal
Okay.
to deed to the city of Sanford.
Any questions?
I would ask you to not call it swampland.
Sorry.
Um,
It's a low-lying area.
But still
Right.
green.
It's very green down in there. And
For the green way.
I'm glad they're gonna
And the
use it
medical
for
home.
that purpose. It's one of the purposes that that property can be used.
Absolutely, yes. There you go, there you go. And the city has some exciting plans, so this is something that we certainly can help with, so, yeah. Okay, we have a motion, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, budget amendment, page 444, Ms. Mitchell. Hey there. Good evening. Good evening.
Okay, you have before you the first budget amendment for this fiscal year. This budget amendment appropriates an additional $3,810 in funding for the Health Department and Health Promotion. They got notification of the funds prior to us adopting our budget, but everything was already pretty much put together, so we rolled that into this year. Recreation is requesting to roll over funds for various unfinished projects and restricted donations. General Services is requesting to roll over the funds that you see listed there for the O.T. Sloan Pool project and the storm drain project. And then the Sheriff's Department is asking to appropriate $28,000 of their fund balance in the drug seizure fund to purchase equipment in this fiscal year.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Okay, any more discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then you'll just go right into page 446 for our financial report.
Okay, you will find attached the monthly financial report for July 2017. Again, please do not be alarmed. Our sales tax runs 3 months behind, so you do not see any sales tax revenue yet. As far as expenditures go, we look at 8.33% for this point. You will see that a lot of our departments are exceeding that, as usual. We pay a lot of our bills up front as far as dues go, insurance premiums. HSA deposits are made in August 1st, or technically July 31st, so they are applicable on time. So you'll see that balance out as the year moves ahead. Departments that are showing 25% are quarterly appropriations that we pay in July. Sales tax collections are attached through May 2017. You will see that our numbers were down in total for May, but there were some hefty refunds that we got hit for. That's where other nonprofits or governments apply for their refunds for their sales tax that they paid in. But if you go back and net that out, we were actually up in the month of May, as we have been almost every month this year. So hopefully, I'm not sure we'll make the projected budget totals there, the projections that I had used for last fiscal year, but I am still holding out hope, and we should have those numbers by the time you meet in September. Actually, I hope to have them by the end of the month. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Well, if there's any,
Excuse me?
Keep hope alive.
Yes.
if there's any indication based on the parking lots around town lately, wow.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see the numbers down, but the
Well,
city's had the major project
right.
downtown and things like that and stuff, so it took a while for that to hit us. I would have thought it would hit us sooner.
But I'm thinking this coming quarter should.
Hopefully. I think you'll meet your budget, the original budget numbers, but I don't know that we'll reach the projection numbers that we had used.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
All right. County manager's report.
Yes, ma'am. Start with the Stanley Park Nature Center. The project was not finished on Friday, August 11th, and we did not have a walkthrough on the 11th. We did have a walkthrough last Wednesday in an informal manner. And there were several areas that still needed attention: the bathrooms, cabinets in the entrance, the animal exhibit areas. Paving has been completed, but was damaged over the weekend, will have to be repaired. The railing for the back deck is going up, but there are a lot of little things, grading, overseeding, many things that still need to be done. So I talked with the architect today. Realistically, probably would not get a CO or a certification of significant completion until September 1st. And then there would probably be a couple of weeks of change orders that would need to still be addressed. So realistically, we're still looking about 30 days. The board needs to decide if they want to instruct staff to send a letter to the contractor telling them that liquidated damages are now running. So I would like, a motion that we go back to August 12th and let them know that they're now running.
Okay. Any questions or discussion on that with Mr. Funky? Because that was per your meetings and conversations with them. That was a pretty hard and fast.
They had an opportunity, and Mr. Spivey will attest, I gave them the opportunity to change that date.
Okay.
Just to make sure, and they stuck with it.
Most definitely do.
Okay, all right, well,
That was their date.
okay.
I think we need to put them on notice about the liquidated damages. After all, they've already hit us with a couple of change orders, and, we're not through yet, so I think we need to put them on notice.
Okay.
I
So-
think the board has been more than accommodating and
Yes.
reasonable at this point.
Yes. Okay, so we have a motion on the board, a motion for the board, to advise the manager to send the letter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Alrighty. Okay.
We were quite surprised. We received 8 submittals from architects. And Michael and I will be reviewing them and making a recommendation at the next meeting, September 18th, on who to hire. In the meantime, and we actually now have 3 requests because Commissioner Sharp got a letter today from the sheriff on a matter, but the first issue is that the DA has received approval from the legislature to hire 3 additional people at our courthouse. They have also, the DA has asked for additional reserve parking. And then today, Commissioner Sharp was cornered and talked to about additional or reserve parking for the judges for 5 spots based on the shooting that occurred today in Ohio. So it's been an issue that the sheriff has discussed with me in the past about trying to make sure that they can get the judges from the parking lot into the building safely. So it brings up the issue of what we're going to do with parking. One of the old plans was to take what I call the upper parking lot, the one on Cortland Avenue, and put gates up and have that as parking for employees only, certain positions. Obviously, not every employee in the courthouse could get a parking spot up there, but we could put a pretty good dent in the DA's office and the judges, and some of the clerk's staff as well. So throw that out as an option to investigate. I'm not saying that we go do that right now, but we can price that and come back to the board with a price to do that. But in the meantime, you have these continual requests for reserve security parking, which security outside of the courthouse, although the sheriff takes care of that, is really one of those gray areas with the state. We provide the facility. We're required to provide bailiffs inside the courthouse, but as far as armed security outside of the courthouse, there's no requirement for that. And so you get into something that's, could be very expensive if all of a sudden we end up with that responsibility. So just need a little guidance from the board. I've tried to encourage the DA and the sheriff and the clerk to make contacts directly with the board because what's going on at the courthouse is a board decision.
We don't have any underground parking.
Not that I'm aware of. I think one of the major things is the bailiffs at the metal detector want to be able to look out that window and see those judges pull in, go right out, get them out of the car, and get them right in instead of having to leave their post at the metal detector. That's just one of the concerns I've heard. And I want it known that I don't want any special parking place. I'll park that. This is judges and people that work at the clerk's office, making no special requests. But I think this is in light of what happened today. We don't want anything like that happening in Ohio to happen here, for sure.
Well, the environment's changing. So it's one of the things I talked with Commissioner Odom today. It just seemed to be a lot more people who are on edge for whatever reason, a lot of angst. I've had more customers call or citizens call me in the last 60 days than have probably had called me in the last 2 years about things that are going on. And hopefully that's not a trend that will continue, but it just seems to be a lot of angst out there. So I think, what we can do to help with security, we need to. And I guess if the reserve parking helps, but I really think that the only way to ensure reserve parking is to give a way that we make that upper lot secure and not everybody and anybody can get in and out of that lot.
And I'd just like to add that the judges already have 4 reserved spots in 2 different locations, 2 here, 2 over here. So we wouldn't be really taking many more spaces away from the public, but they already have reserved spots. Not like we're creating those; they already have them. But we just want to move them where the bailiffs can see them, more visible.
I can see in the future with the group, we're expecting, I think we're going to have us having a problem with parking in that courthouse.
We're going to have to look at doing some type of paving on that lot we own on the corner there. And then, there's some other options we're going to have to look at around the courthouse in the future.
Do we have any extra parking spaces across the street there where we just got through fixing these?
I haven't been over there since probation.
Where you are.
Well, we have 10 state vehicles, and we park them next to the road to try to prevent vandalism, and we have 2 extra spaces on the top road. And then we've been leaving the left side of the building open for the public, and then it's first come, first serve after that. That's what we've been doing.
Furnished the spaces for all those. I saw all those state vehicles parking there. I pulled in there one day just to see how the parking was working out. I said, my goodness, we'd have all these state vehicles in here, we'd have some parking spaces. But I guess we had to provide those too, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have some problems with parking down there in the near future.
We already have
We do.
space.
Yeah.
So now we're-
Moving the vans helped a whole lot.
Yes, it
During because I know the last time I served on a jury, which was like a year and a half ago, before we moved the vans over here, I thought I was going to park at the post office. And I got there on time. It was just crazy.
It's right next to the Gilliland.
Corner of Elm and Court.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
And actually, emergency management parks over there now as it is. So, but we're starting to tear that up a little bit over there, and we're going to have to pave it. And when we do, we're going to have to set up some drainage to make sure that drains away from the attorney's office.
How big a spot is that? I mean, how much of that do we own?
We own pretty much the entire
The
grassy
whole
area
floor?
up
The
to
whole
their
grassy
wall.
Okay.
I pretty much say the whole.
Half an acre? Yeah.
Yeah, probably about half acre.
Okay. Yeah.
What happens, and I keep up with the news, the judge shop?
In Ohio.
Yeah.
I guess he's going to work, getting out of his car, going in.
At the courthouse?
Yeah.
Going into the courthouse.
Probation officers shot the gunman. Yeah.
How many judges do you, maybe I should ask, how many judges do we have at one time?
You might have Superior Court going on, you could have 4.
Yeah, you could have 4.
Most of the time it would be 3.
Well, I mean, this is of course thinking outside the box, but you're talking about potentially hiring more people outside. I'm assuming part of that would be to escort the judge in, right? Why couldn't they pull inside the Sally Port and have a deputy, basically valet parking, sort of, if you will? They pull inside the Sally Port, the deputy takes the car back out, parks it. When the judge is ready to go, pull it back into Sally Port. Of course, obviously the judge is on his own once he leaves, but if you want to protect him right there on the premises, it's the fault.
That's a good.
That's the
I
underground
mean,
parking.
the Sally Port, I mean that secure garage there.
I couldn't remember what you called it. Sally Port.
Yeah, it's a secure garage. Obviously, for law enforcement, keep prisoners confined, but
Right.
it would be a great way, I think, to protect the judge.
The elevator from Sally Port takes him
Takes him
right
straight
to
to
his
the
chambers.
courthouse, right to the chambers.
That's it. For the short term, at least,
He don't need deputy to I mean, I'm just like trying
I'm
to.
wondering if they can accept a tip.
Our metal detector guys are not armed, correct? Just
Right,
taser
right.
and pepper spray.
Right.
But we do have other bailiffs that are armed that walk out and get our judges. That's correct, right?
Sir?
That's correct. We have armed bailiffs that do walk out and get our
Yes, sir.
judges and escort them
Scott, okay.
I mean, the thing is, when I worked in Chatham, the deputies did the same thing. The bailiff would go out there and meet the judge, but still, once again, as Mr. Croker said, in the environment that we live in today, they don't want to shoot the judge, they'll shoot the cop too.
Oh, that is, yes.
When you bring it into Sally Port, like I said, there's no guarantee, but, it's just a thought.
That's good. We'll talk to the sheriff some more.
Correct.
in. I think they jumped on Russell down there today about that.
Yes.
And Russell told them that it had to go
Mr.
through the commission.
The time.
Mr. Tim Bolduc had
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
Mr. Tim Bolduc had actually called me about it today. And what he had done, he expressed because of the shooting, which I didn't know about either, until he told me about it this morning. And I told him the proper procedure was to go before the commissioners because y'all do control the parking there. And I noticed in reading the report from the manager that there also been a request from the DA's office as well too. So, but that was a good idea because one thing remember on our Sally Port is under cameras. You do have some cameras around, around the courthouse, but as soon as you put in a Sally Port, you're in watched by the control center, and you would be under protection there. So that was a very good idea. Right?
What about the district personnel, the DA officer, through the district personnel?
Yeah, we don't have offices for them. I offered them offices over here at the administrative building, and also, the old courthouse. They could, conceivably go in there as well, because the offices are occupied. We need to clean that out a little bit and get that ready for occupancy. So we could put somebody temporarily. They wanted to take over the lawyer's lounge, which I told them it's not a lawyer's lounge, it's a law library, and because that meets the definition of state statute, and we're required to have that by state statute. So there's the law library has to stay. Maybe not there forever, but it has to stay there for now because that's the only place we have it. Can happen. One of the reasons why we need to go ahead and get this architect in place and get moving. All right. We'll investigate the cost also the Sallyport idea. Colon Road Water, talked with the engineers while we were in Durham, and there's a good chance we will be out to bid by October 1st, which would be tremendous because that would mean that we could be under construction before January 1st. And they're not anticipating a lengthy construction period, maybe 90 days. So those plans are coming together. Last month, I had in my report the GFOA certificate, but Lisa wasn't here, so I put it back on there so we could, congratulate her and her staff on obtaining the GFOA for the 21st consecutive year.
Fantastic.
A couple items that aren't on the report. Last week at the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners meetings, I guess it was 2 weeks ago now.
No, it was
We
last
have
week.
the county map book.
Yes, thank
I
you for
have
bringing that.
3 copies, so y'all have to share.
Well, and I've got some ordered for the board. Yeah,
So
they just ran out.
Excellent data on North Carolina counties, and if you go through and you look at Lee County, you would see that we rank very well in a lot of categories. So it's something to toot our horn about. The last item I need to bring up.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
Do we have one of these over at the library?
No, sir.
I can get some. Matter of fact, I've got to call them back on an issue tomorrow, so I'll order some extra.
Yeah.
The last item is the Golden Leaf Foundation Community-Based Grants Making Initiative. This year, the North Central region is available for $11 million in grants. Each county can submit 3 proposals. The total of the grant request cannot exceed $1.5 million. And there's a lot of other requirements in here. It's a competitive grant process, but we have till October 20th to apply for this money. So this is just a grant money that comes around every 5 to 6 years. So we have to have projects that are economic development based and something that can be completed in 2 to 3 years. So so far, there's a lot of people that knew about this, and the community college, city, Saga, many. And the only idea that we have so far is the funding of the sewer line that would go from the Moncure, what they're calling the Moncure sewer line. We could do a branch off of that line and run it to the airport. And the reason that project would be attractive is the 4 projects that we had out there that kind of, we haven't been able to close those deals, and one of the reasons we haven't is because we don't have adequate sewer. So the Golden Leaf was pretty excited about that discussion on that because those 4 projects had a lot of jobs attached to them. And so right now that's just one idea. We have a month, so if you have any ideas, it doesn't always have to be a government project. A nonprofit agency could come forward to us, and the county manager would have to sign their application.
Has anybody thought about the Leon throwing this out there, about the Greenway headed that way, and I wonder, it's kind of like that thing's kind of died on the vine now. I don't know if we should let that happen. I wonder if that would be some.
It would qualify because they have a 501c3 status.
Maybe look at it.
Yep.
Yes, sir. It could qualify under one of the criteria. So, anyway, that 1.5 million, we can apply for it. We're not guaranteed to get 1.5 million because we're competing with the other counties. But, we can apply up to 3 projects and ask for up to 1.5 million.
There's already been much money spent out there, and it's kind of sitting there. It's a shame to just let it drive on the line.
What was the cost of the sewer out to the airport, John? I'm
They
sorry.
would need at least $1 million.
Okay, I mean, okay, what, still lose $500,000? Okay, all righty.
And then I just want to make everybody aware that of the upcoming events. September 18th is next commissioner meeting. September 27th is the Saga annual meeting. And then we're back to 2 meetings in October.
Yes, I got it now. Okay,
And that's my report, Madam
all
Chair.
right, thank you. All right, so we do have a closed session, but prior to that, we'll do commissioner comments. Commissioner Reeves?
I talked with the manager earlier today and the new land use proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Are we addressing affordable housing sites by any chance?
That, the new concept is place types, and I think you and I had a discussion on that. Affordable housing is part of the mix of some of the place type designs.
Well, it's interesting because I noticed that Wake was looking at some property to buy,
Mm-hmm.
and the developer had a strong call in there not allowing affordable housing or low income. Yeah. They're having to, I guess, get legal to take a look at it,
Okay.
see if they can remove it. But I think that needs to be a consideration as we move forward, to keep in mind, not just within the city, but also the county.
Right.
That affordable housing, whether we like it or not, or whether we all agree or not, the middle class folks are gonna take the hardest hit over the next few years. And finding employment and not having a place that they can afford is a real catch-22. There's nothing phony about it. And people are converting properties for big money, as you notice in Wake and Durham County. Developers are getting out of the Section 8 and subsidized rentals for more expensive units. So that places a burden on individuals who were barely making it start with, and now they'll have rental problems. So I would just like for us to make sure that planning takes a close look at how we incorporate affordable housing lots availability.
I know, I was reading an article earlier in the week where a lady that works for the Federal Division of Public Health in San Francisco, she started out living in, I think, Alameda, and it was about a 15-mile commute. And then the developers started going in and buying up she's 62-year-old single mom and grandma, and they started buying up so much of the property, and the person that owned her home that she was renting sold it. And so now she gets up at 2:15 every morning. I can't remember the suburb. She 2:15, takes 2 trains and 3 buses. And then doesn't get home till about 7:45 at night, and has to do it all over the next day. So like you and I have discussed several times, growth is a blessing and a curse sometimes. Yeah, we need to make sure that we have, as we do the public hearings and we go through the land use plan, we need to certainly address that. Anything else? Okay, Doc?
I have a couple things. One, I want to tell the board that we have a new Saga board chair. Her name is Kim Sutton. She's the executive officer with Red Wolf. Also, Saga has accepted a proposal on an audit proposal for the coming year, so they're moving ahead with that. And also, I'm kind of like the county manager. I think this month's been a telephone month. I've had a lot of calls, complaints about different things, and I've tried to respond to all of them, but it has been a busy month for complaints, just different things. One thing the lady asked about, and I talked to the county manager about this, I was asked about a swing for handicapped children at our parks. And I was informed we're trying to get that taken care of through the city, but working with them on something.
Through the city?
I think.
The city is making the
Splash
splash
pad.
pad and the new park equipment that they're gonna put out there. They're gonna make it all ADA compliant. Pretty cool stuff that they're gonna put out there.
But we were looking at the handicap swing, and do you have a number on it yet, cost?
About 15.
About $15,000.
15,000.
How much?
15,000.
Yeah, that's kind of the number I heard, yeah.
We can take that out of the commission, but.
But anyway, I still want to talk to everyone about trash. I've seen some improvement, but we still got a long ways to go. If you get out in the county and ride around, people still throwing their trash outside the road. I can take a plastic bag, and I think they may be picking on me. I don't know. I turn to go into my house, and I take a plastic bag and pick up trash.
You still a suspect in my mind. I got more every week now.
But anyway, I would like for us to make sure everybody understands that you need to put trash in the trash can. Try to keep the county green and clean.
Absolutely.
By the way, we have a major renovation at Kiwanis Children's Park that we're going to do this year too. So we were looking at the ADA swing down there as well.
Okay.
Before we get off trash, the dumpsters out at Deep River, I don't know if in front of that business, that not a business, but a trailer park.
The one on 501, the one on
I was just wondering
headed
if we
towards
got
Pittsburgh.
Joe, yes.
Yes.
Did we mention that to
I didn't
Joe?
know. Forgot about it.
Okay, well, that's fine. We can,
Glad you brought that back up.
thank you.
It's getting kind of rough.
Yes, man. It's terrible.
Doc, is that it? Is
That's
that
it.
good? Okay.
So I don't know if all the commissioners got the email, but one of the employees at Johnson Lee Harnett, Miss Shirley Whitley, went home to lunch the other day and never came back. And she passed.
Oh, my gosh.
And so I'd like for us to keep that organization, the Community Action Group, and all of them in our prayers. I know they're having a really hard time. And then I've been approached, and like Doc says, it's a month for calls. I've gotten a couple of letters with pictures similar to what we received here tonight for rundown buildings, and I've turned things over to Mr. Crumpton, and I know he's talking to the planning and zoning about possibilities for what could be done, and in the Swan Station area, and then also around Odom Lake area. So there is citizen concern in these areas about facilities that have been abandoned or are being used for storage that look pretty rough. So I know Mr. Crumpton and I had a conversation about us not having an ordinance to deal with some of these things. So I think that's something that we need to have a discussion about as commissioners.
Or an enforcement mechanism.
Yeah.
We don't have code enforcement officers to enforce it, so we would have to. We've been down, this will be number 3. This will be my 3rd discussion of this with the board, maybe 3rd's a charm, but I've also had complaints at St. Andrews. You still have some homes there that folks did the minimum, I guess, to keep their homes after the tornado, but they're not cutting the grass. They look bad, and the folks around there are concerned about their property value. So, as our county gets a little bit more urbanized, you're starting to see some of these pains out into the unincorporated areas where people are more concerned about what's going on next door to them.
And then I've seen several bags of trash just thrown out on the side of the road. I don't know if Doc opened that can of worms, but it's open.
Just like what the county manager said, we need enforcement. We have the ordinance on the book, we need to enforce the ordinances. That's what we need to do. We need to get some folks. I think if you give a man a couple of tickets out and they had to go out and pick up trash on Saturday, I don't care anything about them paying a fine. I just want to see them picking up trash. I'm tired of picking up their trash. That's my deal.
Well, we're still on. I'm not putting you guys back there on the spot, so I'm gonna look at him. But if you see somebody throw out a bag of trash, or you just see a bag of trash thrown out on the road, and you take it and you take it to the sheriff's office, and they look and see people's envelopes and stuff, is that a no? Because it could have just fallen off a truck or something. It could have been intentional.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was.
Could have fallen off a garbage truck.
Yeah, I mean, I was just.
I was in that business, and
Yeah.
It happens.
it happens.
I
Madam
understand.
Chair, if you get a name out of a bag and you call those people,
Yeah.
they'll come get it.
Well,
You say, you got a choice. You can come get your trash, or I'm gonna call the sheriff's department. Most of the time they'll come get it. I had that actually happen, and, got there and he said, no, I didn't throw out with 2 bags, and there was 4 bags laying there. I said, well, how about taking another 2 bags?
Well, at least he was honest.
You know,
By golly, we're gonna get a handle on this one of these days. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, I got one other thing. I got a phone call from a lady concerned about not being paid by DHSS. And so Angelina Noel, is that her?
That's
her.
Yes.
I thought it was.
Yeah, yeah.
But she did a fabulous job.
Yes, she did.
She was aware of the situation. She addressed it. And to my knowledge, the lady's happy. And so I greatly appreciate what you did.
Thank
So-
you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay.
I'd like to thank Angelina Noel. Also, I walked in unannounced, I think it was last week, with something I wanted to look into, and she did it that day, got back with me that day, and, it's taken care of as far as, as we could go with it, and I appreciate that. Second thing, homelessness task force. We've been meeting on that with a great group of people and for several months, and we hope to have a white flag shelter open by November. And white flag shelter means if it's above a certain degree or below a certain degree, you can come in and spend the night and no questions asked. So we hope we're on track to have that happen.
I just hope everybody watched the eclipse safely, or the partial eclipse. That's all I got.
That's why I was late. I was waiting on it.
Got you behind a little bit. Kevin?
Well, I'd like to congratulate Beth again for coming on board with the county. And the same thing, just kind of echo what some of the others have said as far as the month of complaints. I'm not sure if anybody else got to see it or not, but it's from a local businessman. I won't call his name. I just respect his privacy. But it was in response to a letter an article was in the front page of the Sanford Herald. It was a good article, but and it was one of our graduates from CCCC, but he elected to locate in Wake County, and I don't know. I mean, maybe he's a native of Wake County or something, but he was just basically talking about the fact that he was obviously pro Lee County and wanted to see money spent here in Lee County, and of course I replied and I said, look, I'd like to think that everyone that's voted, that's elected to serve on this board is certainly pro Lee County for keeping the money here in this county. And of course, me being a small businessman, I certainly appreciate it too, and it really warms my heart when I have customers that come in and say, hey, I could have gone down the road to XYZ store in Moore County, or I could have bought a firearm off the internet. And of course, remember now, if you buy a firearm on the internet, it still has to be sent to the store, and they still have to go through the proper checks. But I could save $1 or $2 by doing that, but I wanted to spend my money here. I bought my wife a car, a pickup truck last month, and bought it at Wilkinson, and I could have gone, all over, I guess, the state, I guess, to save a few dollars. But, you know, hey, I might, I might be asked to step down from the board probably if it was known that I did buy a car out of Lee County, but I did buy it here locally. And as a local businessman, I, you know, just try to let him know, well, of course, you know, we want to see the money kept. But I guess what I'm trying to say is when we do have our graduates, and I'm proud of our community college, but when we do have graduates that elect to put their faith in this county, as I did when I opened up my store 4 years ago, you know, that we just give them kudos, you know, when we can, because, you know, they are taking that leap of faith when they open a business up. But this gentleman that sent me this email, he's pretty much in the same line of work that this young gentleman is from Wake County. But it really bothered him. It really bothered him. So I just tried to assure him that we were certainly pro-Lee County and want to see the money spent here.
So in response to the same, I probably got the same article you did.
Yeah.
And it's not the first one I've ever got from about, you know, keeping the business here in Lee County.
Mm-hmm.
But I did talk to the chairman of the Board of Trustees at Community College, and he called me. I forwarded the article to them. And the intent, I believe, as most people would read it, was to promote the community college and what the graduates are doing in the program.
I think so.
And that's the way I took it. But they also, the community college board wanted us to know that they talked to individuals that write articles for them as a response to this, and, you know, want them to pay attention and be cognizant of trying to promote the local people as well, as someone that may go to another county. And that they appreciated us letting them know that, and that they would try to, you know, do a better job of in their publishing as far as to recognizing the people that do stay in local business here. So I thought that was nice.
He's helping to bid for the community college through
Yeah,
bonds and everything
yeah,
else. He'd
yeah.
like local businesses to be featured, because we have a ton of their graduates working locally.
Just trying to do a good story about a graduate. But
Well, I would tell you, yes.
Yeah.
I would tell you that our college gets, because of the specialized programs that they don't have them at all the other community colleges in this area. And Wake Tech and Moore County are known more for transfer students than they are for the folks that go into the technology type, you know, things like this work. So you've got people coming from all over to go to take advantage of what we have here. And you got to remember, when they come here to go to school, they're spending money here. Mm-hmm. So I see the taxpayers, you know, concerned that we're footing the bill for the buildings, but there is a return even on those people that don't set up shop here. And you look at the vet tech program and the people that move here and rent places and then shop here, and because they come from all over the country to go to this vet tech program. And there's only so many vets in Lee County, so they're being placed all over the country. So our community colleges has become more nationalized, I would say, because of the program. So there's that trade-off. But I certainly understand that you know, like to see that, you know, Lee County, because there's plenty of people going out there and doing great stuff here in Lee County.
And they do, you know, that's part of their marketing to outside of the county. And I understand that. I mean, I'm on the board of Farm Bureau, and we made a donation to the college. And when you're talking about the vet tech program, there were 450 some applicants 3 years ago just to CCCC, and they can't take that many. But there were only a few from this state. I mean, a large portion of them were from other states, and I thought that was really fascinating that program is that well marketed and well known. I mean, it's like ranking in the top 5 in the United States, so we should be really proud of that. Yeah.
Kevin, second?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just to go along with what John had said, had a good, I guess a good association annual meeting.
We had an interesting meeting.
It was interesting. I came out of some of the, I wouldn't say it was uplifting in that we talked a lot about Medicaid problems and mental health issues and opioid addiction, and so a lot of the workshops were kind of downers, but I mean, you know, as far as the topic was concerned, but what the counties are doing to solve the problems and what the association is helping us with, I mean, that part was really good. And I will, those of you that don't have copies, I've got, I've been working on something with the association, so I'll be talking to them tomorrow, so let me know if you want one. But, you know, I do want to say for the record that, you know, our local education system just gets a lot of negative opinion sometimes. And I know when this first came out, you know, we were all eager to look at it, and we were at the meeting, and a lot of us were sitting around. And, you know, when you flip through here, you know, one of the things, as far as the amount of people that have bachelor's degrees in our county, you know, we're in the top third, and we're in the middle as far as our facility needs. But the thing that amazes me is, oh my gosh, we get, when we look at the counties around us and what they get for lottery funds based on what we get for lottery funds, and then our total current expense for students, 40 counties are above us. And yet we're able to be in the, I mean, there's only 20 counties above us in teacher supplement based on what we've done the last 3 years. You know, our kids are performing well. It amazes me. You know, we are doing so much more, in my mind, with a lot less than a lot of other counties around us have. And I know when, I mean, 20 counties have a tax rate higher than we do, and they're not performing nearly as well in as far as education is concerned. So, you know, as I was going through this, and some of my friends did, they're like, how are you guys doing this in Lee County? And I said, we've got a great team. We really do. Everybody's working together. I know one of the things that 4/5 of the state are envious of, the percent of county population without broadband access, 1% in Lee County, which I'll tip my hat to the county manager and staff for leading the charge on that. But in today's world, to not have broadband access, I mean, that hits you hard where education's concerned, economic development, and you have a third of the counties, you know, 15, 20, 44, 55, 82% of their counties don't have broadband access. It's scary. But 1% for Lee County. So I was really, we need to pat ourselves on the back for that, because that impressed a lot of people, especially the younger staff folks within CACC. They thought that was a really good thing. But anyway, take time and look through this. But one more statistic that I did want to point out was, well, actually two. One, the opiate deaths in Lee County. We had 7, which is 7 too many, in my opinion. But Wake County had 62. It is a terrifying problem that's growing every year, and I know Kevin and I've had a lot of discussion on that, and Cameron, I know you see that as well. And then one last thing that, one of the hurdles we still need to get over, and I think that's where economic development comes in, is we still have 26% of our children are living in poverty. So we're about halfway as far as percentages go in the state, but that's something that I'm definitely concerned with, because they're too little to get a job and making decisions for themselves, so we need to make sure that they have what they need. We had a great meeting with the land use plan, and our next meeting will be September 14th, and we'll be ready for the rollout, which I'm excited about. It's a totally different concept. It kind of blew my mind when I first saw it, but I'm hoping folks will like it. It looks like it's going to put us ahead of the game for the 21st century. Just a reminder for everybody, if your child is on the traditional calendar, and for everybody, school starts back next Monday, the 28th. So again, more buses on the road, more kids at bus stops, so be mindful of that. And a personal note, if I have not answered your email, I apologize. I've had a family situation with my stepmom being in the hospital for a while, so I'm still trying to catch up, and I will get there, but she is better and things are getting into a new normal, so I'm not ignoring you. I'm just kind of behind on my communication. So with that,
I've got one
sure.
economic development piece, and maybe you all can help me get it clear in my head. But when we talk about economic development, especially here in Lee County, does anybody know what our labor pool actually looks like for Lee County citizens? Or if you understand what I'm asking.
Like the age and the education.
Especially education and experience.
Yeah, Bob Joyce has that. He's got a really good. It's the
NC Works. They're not
yeah.
Employment Security Commission anymore. They're NC Works. They have that data as well.
Well, the reason I asked for it is, and I would like to have that information.
I'll get that.
You know, you have to realize, with all the work that we do to bring in top quality jobs, if your labor pool here in Lee County isn't up to snuff, it doesn't help Lee County citizens. So
That's being taken into consideration with the Saga group, I know, because I know that Joy Thrash has had meetings with the military to look at how many individuals retire there each year, and then also with surrounding counties. I mean, in some of, like the Moncure mega site, if that comes to fruition and you would happen to land an automotive manufacturer, you need a wealth of different talents and employees, and that's one of the key. That's the number one thing with trying to draw businesses, proving that you have the labor force and the agreements with surrounding counties to be able to support a business.
Yeah. I just like for us to keep that in mind and get the stats. If somebody's keeping a record, I don't know if it's monthly or what, quarterly, whatever it is, I like to see it on a regular basis.
Okay.
Because the one complaint people often give you is that there are no jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the response is, and you have no education or job experience.
You don't want to leave those people out there that aren't qualified for the high-tech jobs. They need jobs too. And
Or
that
training.
is a different type of industry than something like these jobs we just brought. We just missed a good, I was hoping we'd get it, we just missed bringing a industry in here, I think, that kind of brought a lot of people in that are unemployed that doesn't qualify for the high-tech jobs. We missed it, but that's where we're at. We'll get one sometime down the road, maybe.
That's right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you. We'll work on that, Rob. Okay.
So I move we go into closed session to discuss the acquisition of real property per North Carolina General Statute 143-381.11A5.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're in closed session. Thank you.